As the NFL draft approaches, news and rumors from the scouting department start to spread far and wide, and we have an event to trigger just such news, rumors, and, frankly, speculation. In an article titled Chiefs in Attendance, maybe I didn't do this part. I apologize. Yeah. Chiefs in attendance at HBCU Combine on Monday. 5 prospects highlighted NFL draft preparation. Season is officially in full swing from Arrowhead Pride by Peter Sweeney. We get the following on Monday. The Kansas City Chiefs were one of 32 teams at the HBCU, historically black colleges and universities combine, held in Oxnard Sports Performance Center in Metairie, Louisiana. Similar to the Chiefs and the University of Kansas Sports Medicine and the Performance Center, the New Orleans Saints have team offices, indoor and outdoor practice fields, and training areas at that facility to host the Combine. Now, every time I hear HBCU, I think HBTC, but something tells me Cole did not go to an HBCU. Something about it. I don't know. I'm doubtful of that proposition. Now, the article themselves listed 5 players. I have 7 that I think are worth talking about. The first 2 are a safety and a corner because, as far as I can tell, these were the headliners for the event. Safety Robert McDaniel, who goes 6'2", 213 pounds, and ran a 4.55 40-yard dash. Robert McDaniel, in my opinion, is definitely going to get drafted. He could get drafted, in my opinion, as high as Joshua Williams did from an HBCU in the 4th round. I think that is probably his ceiling. A 4.55 40 doesn't necessarily help him. I don't think he had any other numbers that stood out, but good size, good weight. So if someone is watching those tapes and likes what they see, then he could absolutely go as high as the 4th round. A guy that I think is probably a 5th round prospect, Kendall Bowler, went 6 foot tall, 195 pounds, 4.5 340-yard dash, 38-inch vertical, and 10-foot 5-inch broad jump. Those are good numbers with the exception of the 40, but the 40, 4.53 for a corner, I guarantee you there's 32 teams in the NFL, probably 20 of them have a cornerback starting one of their top 3 corners that ran a 4.5 something 40-yard dash. It is not uncommon. He did look good in movement drills, and that is what you have to see if you're going to be running a 4.53 while being a starting corner in the NFL. Probably he needs a year of work to really get up to speed, the way that we saw Joshua Williams get a year of work as a part-timer. He never really took off from that point, but after that year, you kind of saw him at his ceiling, I think. Then we have a really interesting one. Joaquin Davis, I think, definitely made himself some money. Now, the height and weight numbers here, I could not find official combine height and weights. Maybe I was just reading the wrong articles. Normally, you would have arm length and hand size and stuff too in a combine. So these are unofficial heights and weights from what I can tell. I had to source these from the team websites themselves, from ESPN, whichever I could get my grubby little paws on first. But if Joaquin Davis is 6'4", which he does look 6'4", and he is 195, which he does look 195, he looks like Marquez Valdez-Scantling out there on the field. He is a skinny-looking guy. He ran a 4.44 40-yard dash, which is a good number, with a 1.49 10-yard split. Normally, 6'4" guys that run 4.4 40-yard dashes, they are accelerators. Normally, their 10-yard split is not as impressive as their 40-yard dash. Here we have an exception. Joaquin Davis has a 10-yard split that, frankly, might be more impressive than a 4.44 40-yard dash. That is a Very good 10-yard split. And then he added a 40.5-inch vertical to that. I have not seen very much tape of Joaquin Davis. I was able to watch a highlight reel. That's not a whole lot. He was a basketball player as well, and you can see that in the way he moves, and that's something you don't often hear about wide receivers. It's normally more the tight ends that you can make that comparison with, but I think that he has the physicality of a guy who is used to grabbing rebounds. I don't know that he necessarily has the fluidity that you would like to see from a wide receiver, but again, at 6'4", running a 4.44 40-yard dash and a 1.49 10-yard split, you can sacrifice some of that fluidity because he's going to be getting off the ball very, very fast. There were two offensive linemen that stood out to me. One was Jason Ivey, 6'5", 285 pounds. Ended up running a 5.16 40-yard dash with a 1.7 10-yard split. Had a 26.5-inch vertical and 19 reps on the bench press. When you look at Jason Ivey, he looks like an NFL offensive guard. I think that is likely what his future will be. And I think that he's impressive enough. He's probably going to need a year of seasoning. I think he's a guy that you can get in the 6th or 7th round. I do think he gets drafted, but I don't think you're going to be able to put him on the field immediately. Then there's Cam Johnson, who went 6'4", 300 pounds. That 5.37 40-yard dash is exactly what you're looking at. 24 bench press reps is a good number. I think this is an undrafted player, but he is an undrafted player that you can add to your roster and probably make the 53, depending on the roster. I think that in Kansas City, I think it would be a little bit difficult for him to make the roster because the Kansas City Chiefs have more depth than top-line talent, especially if Trey Smith leaves. But he is a guy in Kansas City with the number of offensive linemen they carried last year. He might have to spend a year on the practice squad, but I think there's a lot of places in the NFL that he could be one of their depth pieces. Then there is the defensive line, and guys, there's a couple guys here that made a lot of money for themselves. I think Quintez Mansfield made some money for himself. I do think he gets drafted off of this performance. I don't know that he's going to necessarily be one of these top end of the draft kind of guys, but at 6'2", 295 pounds, he managed to rip off a 4.94 40-yard dash. That is sub 5 for a guy that I think is likely. He's definitely a defensive tackle. He's not a defensive lineman, right? I think he has the potential to be a nose guard in the NFL. Again, with the height and weight, you didn't get the arm length. I would like to see his arm length to be able to make a little bit more of a judgment there. 1.7 10-yard split. Had a 32.5-inch vertical at that 295 pounds, 9'4" broad jump, again at that 295 pounds, and then ripped off 25 reps in the bench press. The Kansas City Chiefs do need defensive tackle help, and Quintez Mansfield is a guy that I would not be upset to see them take. These are some interesting numbers. Again, I don't know everything about him. I have not done all of the scouting that I like to do normally because it just didn't have the time this season. But here's the real winner from this event. Fred Stokes Jr., whose father played about a decade in the NFL, played for the Rams, played for the Redskins, played for the Raiders? He played for 4 teams, I believe. The Chargers, maybe, instead of the Raiders. But 4 different teams in the NFL, played about a decade in the late 80s, mid-90s. If he really is 6'6" and 265, guys, this might be a 3rd-round pick. because he ran a 4.76 40-yard dash with a 1.60 10-yard split, had a 35.5-inch vertical, and a 10-foot 4-inch broad jump. These are good numbers. And if he is 6'6", and if we get that he does have 33 plus inch arms, then I think what you're looking at here is a guy that could rocket up in the draft, might have made himself some legitimate money. If 265 running a 4.76 is a good place to be as a 6'6" edge player. One thing I forgot to mention up here with Quantez Mansfield, he had 7.5 career sacks in college. So he is, when you're looking at him, it's easy to make a Tershawn Wharton comparison. And I don't think that's a bad comparison. And after watching Tershawn this past season, I think that works out very well for Quantez Mansfield. And the final name on this list, Nana Asante. 6'7", 230 pounds. If the 6'7" is true, that is a great number. If the 230 pounds is true, probably going to go undrafted, probably going to have to spend a year on the practice squad. You would like to see his arm length as well. Had a 4.78 40-yard dash, a 33.5-inch vertical, and 16 bench press reps. These are the players that it would seem to me perhaps the Kansas City Chiefs were out there scouting at the HBCU Combine. Again, Joaquin Davis, I have to do more work on. I think that he does get drafted. I don't think that he's a top half of, he's a day 3 guy, simply because of the level of competition, right? That is what's going to get him. I haven't really delved into his stats. Nothing popped off the page to me. So not real sure exactly on productivity. You're taking a flyer on a player like that. Jason Ivey might get drafted. Cam Johnson probably goes undrafted. Those are both offensive linemen, neither of whom I think will play offensive tackle in the NFL. Quantez Mansfield, again, the Chiefs will need defensive tackles. I think he is a 5th or a 6th or 7th round guy. You could see the Kansas City Chiefs sort of shake and bake in the draft and end up with Quantez Mansfield later in the draft process. Fred Stokes Jr., guys, that might be a 3rd rounder. So how bad do you want an edge player with that type of upside potential? Again, need to see his official height, need to see his official weight, need to see his arm length. Nana Asante, I think, goes undrafted. Then we have the Kendall Bowler, the cornerback. Nothing stuck out to me. I mean, it does look fluid, but you can find fluid guys that run better than 4.53. I think probably 5th, 6th round there. I don't know if I see the Chiefs pulling that trigger at that point in the draft with all of the needs that they have. And then Robert McDaniel, the safety, which was the biggest name here. I don't know where I see him going. Again, I think he could be a 4th round pick. I don't see the Kansas City Chiefs necessarily making that pick there. The Kansas City Chiefs do lose Justin Reed probably this offseason. And Robert McDaniel, 6'2", 213 pounds, not terribly different than the size that you're getting out of Justin Reed. So what is that? 6, 7, 8 players the Kansas City Chiefs might have been looking at. My pick of the bunch would be Joaquin Davis. If you can get him in the proper place, Joaquin Davis, for what the Chiefs need, right? Patrick Mahomes has not had a 6'4", 195 guy with a 40.5-inch vertical that's going to go up and get it. He had, I think, MVS's vertical was like a 34, I think. So not really a go up and grab it guy. If Fred Stokes falls past the third round, I would not be opposed to the Kansas City Chiefs making that selection, simply because they need the depth at the edge position. You have to wonder, with the level of competition, how far out is he? Nana Asante, the big thing really there, did not have very much production in college, so you are just taking a waiver at that point with Nana Asante. So anyway, guys, these are the notes that I have for these players here. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not deciding, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on the channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.